Hello, ladies. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's Fireside Reflection for Reset the Airwaves. We are on night 3. And if you have been with us all week, I want to say a warm welcome back. Thank you for hanging out with us. And most importantly, I am so proud of you for rocking with us this week. And I hope that you are seeing some transformation that is happening in your life already just 3 days in. And if you are new and this is your first time here tuning in, welcome. And I'm your host, Tanisha Woolley. I am by day a higher education professional, and by night, I am a soul and transformation coach. And I am your host this week. And my mission is to really coach women who are looking to be the CEOs of their lives, women who seek to know their God-given purpose so that it can inform them on how to lead with excellence in their workplaces and at home in their personal lives. And so Reset the Airways is just an interview series that I designed that we've been rocking along with all this week. And what happens is in the morning, we have a thought-provoking, soul-stirring interview with a guest expert, and all of the guests have been so amazing this week. And then in the evening, we come here with a fireside chat. We kind of slow down the pace. We have a heart to heart and we really dig deeper into the topic that we discussed in the morning interview. So, since this is the middle of the week, I want to do a quick recap of what has taken place so far. So, this week on Monday, we talked about the importance of setting aside intentional time to reflect on where we really are in this season. I think it's so important to take a look, a consistent look, whether it's once a month or once a week, once every 3 months, even, of where we are, because we know that life happens, seasons change. And so we want to make sure that we are in tune with ourselves and we are adjusting our habits. We're looking at our emotions and we're just fine tuning what we need to be successful so that we are not walking around just surviving, but we really are being present and we're thriving and we really are enjoying the gift of life. And so Tuesday, we discussed how to move from fear-based to faith-led leadership. And our guest, Dr. Flanders, provided some really practical examples as well as wisdom on how we can do that. And then last night, I encouraged us to sit and name those fears that may have once started but are causing us to sabotage our daily routines or our habits. And then today in our morning session, we had Miss Francesca, and she gave us a biology lesson on how the brain works in response to trauma and stress. And then she also highlighted how to rebuild trust after we've had these human experiences with developing an intimate relationship with God and having the courage to engage in self-exploration. So, if you have not been keeping up with this week, it's not too late. I want you to sign up, and let me put the link up for you guys. Sign up here so that you can get the recap and the replay of all of the videos for this series. And then also there are some bonus goodies like the Whole Woman Reflection Guide that you all can have. And that's just a space for you to go deeper with these topics. So make sure you sign up so that you can get all of those goodies and stay connected and really just get involved in a community of women who have gathered here at such a time as this because they are all wanting more and knowing that God has equipped them to do something special in this season. And that is why we are resetting the airways so that we can move forward in excellence for the rest of the year. And I'm just glad that you all have carved out the space once again to be here, because I think today's conversation about healing in motion is the kind of conversation that lingers, right? You can't just talk about healing and it be a one and done because there's so many layers to it. And this is really the kind of conversation that makes you feel seen or heard or exposed in places that you probably have been silently managing for years. And so tonight, this is truly going to be a teaching moment. I think that I am a little bit of a teacher at heart. So we're going to dive into talking about trust, because I think what we often miss when we talk about healing is that it's not just about what has hurt you, but it's also about what the hurt has taught you to expect. And that's when healing requires a trust reset, because the emotional pain that we've experienced through our trauma or our wounds does not break us necessarily. Some instances it can be debilitating, but it definitely rewires us. And again, we talked about that today, so make sure you go watch that episode. So when I talk about how our emotional responses, our human experience can rewire us, it may look like this. For instance, like you may say in your mind, I'm good, everything's fine, I'm good. But then there is a disconnect between what you're saying in your head and in your mind than what actually happens with your body. Because although you're saying you're good and you're fine, your body flinches at new opportunities that come because of a lack of trust or hidden fear or some of those things that we've buried deep inside. It's like your spirit wants to believe, and you truly have the sincerest intentions to believe, but your habits still brace you for disappointment. And that's how you know there's a bit of a disconnect between healing and trust and faith and restoration. So the question that I want to present before us tonight is, where am I trusting? Or at what level am I on the trust scale? And so I want to introduce to you what I am calling a tool as the trust thermometer. So I have a little visual aid for you all. Bear with me, y'all. I am figuring out all of this tech stuff, right? Okay, so let's go back to the visual aid. There we go. So this is what I am calling the trust thermometer. And we're going to look at each level of this. And I know that this is, a cute little graphic if I don't say so myself. But really, if I do say so myself, but really this is a mirror for your emotional and spiritual alignment. And this is where you can connect with, how does trust really show up in my life? Because it doesn't show up all at once. Trust really builds layer by layer, choice by choice, decision by decision. And so whether you're trying to rebuild trust after a season of burnout, or maybe you've gone through a relationship that's ended with betrayal, or maybe you have just been experiencing a long season of pretending that you're okay, I want this tool to help you check in your trust temperature and what's going on internally, to help you to be able to name where you are, and again, to name it without shame. So let's walk through each of these together. So the first one is frozen, and that is, I don't trust at all. I shut down to stay safe. So at this stage, you may feel really emotionally numb. And so you may look good on the outside, but on the inside, you've really stopped reaching out. You stopped dreaming. You've stopped expecting anything good to happen. And you really are in a state of survival rather than thriving and enjoying your life. And some signs that you may be in this state are you avoid new opportunities because failure really feels inevitable. And then also you may settle for the idea of having this sense of peace. But what has happened is you've really confused that sense of peace with because in this frozen state, this is often where trauma settles. And if you identify with being in this place, I would highly recommend that you start with number one, self compassion and being gentle with yourself, but then also secure a supportive community. So, whether that is a therapist or a spiritual advisor or the wise counsel of a friend, please reach out intentional if you feel like you're stuck in this place of numbness so that you can get some help to process where you are so that you're not staying in this frozen place. The second level is hesitant. And this is, I want to trust, but it feels really risky. And so at this state, you know that something needs to shift. You've maybe done journaling and have identified some things. You may be even in therapy. And still, the thought of change feels really risky because you have been in this state and have these same thought patterns for much of your life. So being able to change these radically feels very risky and very overwhelming. And you may also feel that if you try to step out and change, that one wrong move will unravel all the work that you've already done, and then you'll have to start back at level zero. At this state, you really are guarded. You're kind of half in the trust process, but you're equally half out as well. And so it can be hard to see your progress when you're constantly volleying back and forth. So, some signs that you may be in this hesitant state is that you feel stuck in analysis paralysis. That's where you hang out. And so, lots of decisions are not made. Sometimes you overthink. And so, those decisions also are not simple. And then also, you can crave a deeper sense of healing here, but really struggle to trust the process and trust the pace of when it will come. So, the sole insight I want to offer here is that if you are at this place in the hesitant stage, this means that you are at a courage crossroads. And so maybe you don't need more certainty. Maybe you just need to give yourself permission to release the old patterns, to release the old habits in your life, and the permission to receive what God is trying to replace for your good. So this is not a space of being in your comfort zone. This is being in a space of being in your stretch zone. And so what I recommend is staying with it. You're on the right track. The next level is curious. And this is, I'm exploring small ways to lean in. So in this state, you are cautiously optimistic. You felt the spark of possibility again. You're starting to question your fear-based patterns. You haven't fully leapt into the trust process 100%, but you're definitely leaning in. And this is where your faith muscles really start to flex. You really start taking some chances on yourself. And some signs that you're here are that you may be asking new questions. Even if you don't have the answers, you're willing to at least pose the questions. You're willing to try again, even if something scares you. Because previously, what would happen is you may have been in that state of, oh, I'm one and done. That's it. But here you're like, oh, okay, maybe I'll try it again. Also, you're learning to tell the difference between the whispers of the fears that you learned versus the voice of your faith. The sole insight here is that curiosity is the evidence that your spirit is awakening. And so I want you to honor this stage of curiosity. Don't rush it. Let all the questions that come up for you, let them breathe. Don't be in a rush to get them answered. Don't be in a rush to move at your own speed. Just allow God to do what he's doing and allow these things to come up and let them flow. I want you to let your what ifs turn into, what now, in this curiosity stage. The next level is softened. And this is, I feel myself opening up again, but is this real? So this is where you are really practicing the art of trust in real time. This is you out there giving people second chances. This is you giving yourself a second chance. This is you learning that healing does not erase your past, but it absolutely does rewrite your relationship with your past. So some signs that you're here are that you're forming new habits around rest and boundaries and grace, and you are utilizing those. You may cry more easily in this state because your emotions are flowing, and where you were once guarded, you're able to let that down and allow yourself to feel. And so the tears may not always come from pain, they just may come from you needing to release. And so this is a very good sign. And then you may also really start feeling proud of yourself again because you're noticing your progress. You know that you're moving differently. You know that when you move differently, people are responding differently. And so you're really starting to see some movement in areas where you've once maybe sabotaged yourself or were a people pleaser. And, people took advantage of you in these areas. So some soul insight that I would offer is that this space in the softened space is really a tender space of transformation. And in this space, I want you to be aware that this may feel very raw because you are more real than you've ever been in years. You're more in tune with who you are. You're more in touch with your needs. You're more confident in asking for what you want. So this is going to be a real new state that you're going to have to embrace. But I want to encourage you to let that softness be your strength because it's opening doors and opportunities that that are going to really work for you as you continue to move in the direction of your healing. And the last state here is trusting. And this is, I surrender what I can't control. And so once you get here, you have really crossed into the space of inner wholeness. You are totally in touch with the woman that you're becoming. You know your purpose. You know the moves that you need to make to continue to move in the right direction. You are elevating yourself in multiple areas of your life. Everything is aligned for to what woman that you want to become. And so all of those things instances of fear, but the difference is in this state, fear does not lead you anymore. You are truly becoming the leader in all of these areas in your life. You begin to trust that you can hear God clearly. You respond to your life now out of wisdom because you're asking questions, you're waiting for the response, you're making the best possible decision for yourself. And then you are able to walk through the unknown and the hard seasons without losing yourself. Because let's be honest, we know that lives, right? We can have plans, we can have goals, which help us move closer to the direction of the dream and realizing our purpose. But we also know that unexpected things happen in life. And so rather than derailing us from our purpose and our path, when we're here in this state of trusting ourselves, trusting God, trusting the process, we don't completely fall off. We know how to pivot. We learn how to adjust, and we learn how to utilize how those things that may have come alongside us that were unexpected, we know how to use them for our good. So we ask the questions here. So sometimes you're setting aligned goals and you're not over attaching them to outcomes. You know what it is that you are supposed to be doing, and failure, if it doesn't happen exactly how we thought it would happen, does not now overcome or overtake you. Also, you can hold both faith and fear in your hands without abandoning your values. So you feel more comfortable walking in new spaces and new territories. And when you get that initial feeling of fear, you don't run away. You wrestle with it. You say, okay, so I know that this is a new level of faith, right? Because as we elevate to new levels, we know that there is going to be new obstacles, new challenges, and new opportunities for growth. But it is exactly that. And you are showing unapologetic. Instead of you being intimidated, you are fully aware that you are influencing the spaces that you enter. So some soul insight that I would give here is that this is where leadership is rooted in wholeness. This is where you are cultivating your resilience. You're not avoiding your pain. You're learning how to walk through it with grace and determination. And at this point, you don't just believe in healing, you embody healing. So that's physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. You're really embracing healing in every area. One thing I want to leave as a final note with this tool is that although it's nice and pretty and it's organized, this is not a linear ladder when it comes to healing. Because healing, we know, is circular and it's a loop. And so I want you to know that you may visit every level of this thermometer more than once. But please don't think of it as regression. Think of it as life. Because as we continue to go through life, as we continue to uncover the hurts and the wounds, or as we encounter new situations that God has brought into our lives to build character in us, we'll realize that we're unpeeling the layers of what needs to be healing. We'll always be in a state of growth. And so it's not regression to be able to go from, trusting to then go to frozen in a different situation. What it means is that you are able to recognize and you are able to pivot and you are able to readjust instead of just staying in that position and not having any tools to recover. So I want you to ask yourself as you are looking at this tool and checking in, and not in a form of judgment. I want you to ask yourself, where am I living from right now? And be gentle with yourself, because this is not about fixing, but it's about facing. Okay, so let me get back. So I hope you all enjoyed walking through that thermometer tool. I hope you all use it as you are determining what stage you are in the trust process, because I think it's a really good visual to recognize where you are and where to start from. And so I want to leave you with just a little personal note that what I found to be true in my own journey is that when I say I trust God, I often mean that I trust his power, but not always his pace. And so when you have been hurt deeply by either people or systems or the church or even your own past decisions, rebuilding trust is like learning to walk again. So I want you to remember that it's slow, it can be unsteady, but it's definitely holy. And again, this is truly what embodied healing looks like, when your mind believes something and then your habits start to align with it. So tonight's reminder is that you are not behind if you are healing slowly. You are still becoming, and we celebrate that. Now, before we get off, we can't end without some good reflection questions. So if you feel like you're in a place where your healing is taking too long, it's going so slow, you feel like, I'm not making the progress that I want to see, I want to ask yourself, expecting perfection from us. We want everything to happen quick, fast, and in a hurry. Like, I'm sick of being here. Like, I've got moves to make, I've got vision to realize. And so we often tend to be our own worst critics and rush the process. But just be honest with yourself. Am I expecting perfection from myself? Number 2, do I trust myself enough to rest? And these questions kind of go hand in hand, because sometimes part of the process is just to sit down and to be still and not to make a move. And then number 3, can I believe that God's timeline is still good even when it's quiet? Because we're putting our faith and our trust in God, who knows the plans for our lives and not what we can see with our own limited eyes. So let tonight be your permission slip to slow down with your healing process without shame. So tomorrow is day 4, and we are going to be talking about the breakthrough blueprint and how to reset before you repeat. So we're going to explore how do you end up in stuck cycles and how to recognize some of those signals where it's time for you to reset. But for tonight, I want you to go and watch the replays if you have not been able to catch anything. And I want you to just be kind and gentle with yourself as you are absorbing all of this information, and know that your healing journey is in God's perfect time and not our own. Until tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., be well.